Hello and welcome to Movie Phone. For Blockbuster Shrinks, press 1. Blockbuster Shrinks is playing now.
All right, back for another one. You got John here, the Redhead Family Therapy guy,
And Mike.
and we're doing another podcast.
We
Dude.
are. I'm excited to talk about this one. So I want everyone to know John and I don't usually talk about the movies together before we jump on the podcast because we want it to be fun and natural. And this one,
Yeah,
I'm really excited to talk about because I just wonder
bro,
what John's thoughts
bro.
are.
It's so much weirder and nonsensical
as an adult, right?
than I ever remembered as a kid. Like, it doesn't work. Like, here's the thing. Tim Curry is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And the movie visually
is
the
awesome. Costumes, like the
costumes,
makeup and stuff. It's
if
crazy.
you could just shut everything off and just look at the movie, it even holds up from like the 80s to now. Like, I mean, it's incredible. There's no computer generated stuff. Like, it's like, besides the clouds, like when darkness like comes on the earth, that was the only thing that was kind of cheesy. Everything else visually
is cool,
is amazing, and I think they got lost. I think the soul of the movie got lost. I think the other thing that might have happened is this movie is dark. Like, it's not a movie that we should have watched as
a kid. Yeah,
we have no business watching.
I almost was going to watch it with my girl because I'm like, oh, it's an 80s movie PG. I'm glad I didn't. They would have been like, what
the opening
is
scene
going on
when you're in hell with Legend?
Yeah,
there's like these guys, these like just people chopping at a body. He's just chopping at it, like he's just got like this cleaver.
That
and
scene, I was like, and it's like right off the bat, I was like, I'm glad I didn't have the girls watch this.
You can hear the juicy like cleavering of the body, and then they're like dragging other people to just chop up in hell. Well, it is so dark and weird and twisted.
It is interesting. So then, John, you mentioned it. It's Legend with Tom Cruise. The 86, I think, is when it came out. But it's really interesting. Ridley Scott. It's a Ridley Scott movie.
It's an Aliens, Blade Runner.
Yeah, and
Tom Cruise is coming off
Gladiator.
Well, and Tom Cruise is coming off Risky Business, so he was all like the Thing or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and it makes sense. Like some of the scenes, like I can see Ridley Scott in it for sure, where I can see like the throne that like darkness sits in at the beginning, the back, when they show the backside of the throne, it looks like an alien egg
off of it. Yeah,
it looks like it has the ooze, and then
it's very like greasy. It's a very greasy, like oozy, slimy.
Which reminds me of, well, it reminds me of Aliens. Aliens is the one I've seen the most, but yeah, it's really an interesting movie. So it's like darkness versus light, good versus evil. At the beginning of the movie.
Okay, let's just start with the scroll. Like, I read the scroll.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. You just told me the whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you just told me the whole movie. I'm like, what am I gonna watch now? Like, and then it's weird. It's so weird. Like, so I'm like trying to dig my teeth into the symbolism. Like, okay, there's this Adam and Eve thing going on, like this introduction, and she's the one that's taking the fruit first, maybe. But the main characters have no arc. They have no arc, and why they're doing anything doesn't make any sense. Like, they're just soulless. Like, Jack is soulless to me. Like, and he's got no pants. Like, why are you wearing no pants and squatting like you got to poop everywhere the whole movie?
He looked like he reminded me of like a Peter Pan, and you had like the Tinkerbell character, you had the Wendy, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. I like the scroll. I was like, okay, this seems interesting, and you kind of get that, like Adam and Eve, they're
this whole thing about,
cast out of the Garden of Eden.
Well, and this whole like progression. There's this whole progression of him, like, of them like becoming a couple. So it's like he's being seduced out of the wild to be socialized, to be I guess a prince, because she's maybe a princess or something. She's like,
that's where I think they're trying to go. Like in the scroll, it said, it kind of alluded to, like, through this experience, they then will understand the balance of needing, darkness and light, or goodness and evil in their lives. But then when all is said and done, it's just light again. Like that's how the movie ends, and I'm like, well, where's
there's
like I don't understand what they've learned. They just had an experience, but I don't feel like they learned anything.
Yeah,
from this experience.
that's the thing that it's missing is the characters have no developmental arc, so you just don't. Well, and it fades out with like Legends, or sorry, with Evil. What's his name? Evil or Darkness?
Yeah,
Darkness, with his face like just fading in the background. My wife's like, "That's ominous. What's that mean?" And I'm like, "I have no idea." I'm like, I have no idea what the point of this movie is. There was just no arc. The only character that kind of had something to her is the little
pixie
thing. Like
girl.
She's trying to seduce Tom Cruise. Like, I can make myself into whatever you want.
Well, especially when she's like, kiss me. It reminded me so much of Hook, right? It reminded me of Peter Pan with her.
Oh, that's true. I didn't think about the Peter Pan.
And it's really interesting. I just don't. Yeah, I'm not sure. There's a couple parts that, like in the beginning, I was like, okay, this seems like it could be interesting, because it really felt like they're playing off of Adam and Eve. But then I felt like it lost that at some point.
It totally lost it. And that's the thing is, like, I feel like I have no understanding of Jack, because he's like, they're like talking and like she's all being like playful and kind of like flirty, and he just like has this empty like look on his face. And I'm like, okay, like what's going on?
He doesn't really communicate.
Yeah, he's just like, he's got like no lines or no like why he's whatever, because he's like the man of the forest or whatever. It's like she's trying to socialize him like with knowledge, and the knowledge is that of a love relationship, but then he gets pulled away because the whole like plunge, does the ring being thrown into the river happens after the unicorn gets like cut up by the
it's like simultaneous, right? I think, because
like they were trying to,
as he comes back up, right, it's frozen
over. Ice, right? Because because it's frozen over.
So I think it happens as he's jumping in or something. If I remember
like he gets caught in the water as the world changed, because that's when the unicorn is killed, right? And so that was really dark. That was the other one. I'm like, man, kids that is like, imagine some little girl like,
excuse me.
Like, it's so diabolical.
I will say this: the only thing that I really remember from the movie is the music that plays whenever the unicorns are present. It's kind of that like that lofty fantasy type music. Like 80s and then I remember the unicorns. I don't really remember anything else from the movie as a kid. I know I've seen it.
I did remember Darkness and thinking it was like sinisterly evil, and I did remember like this kind of questy part of it, and there was a part of me that like thought that was cool, and I thought the trolls were kind of cool, but it was so dark and confusing. It just like, it didn't have a soul, and whatever story they were trying to tell got lost.
Something that was really interesting, so you have Darkness, which I don't think is the devil, because he speaks about father.
Yeah, that's
so I guess
the
devil is father or something. Or maybe there is no devil in this world, even though it seems like they're talking about that in some way.
Yeah, he's all like seeking, like, he's like, I've become possessed by the girl, and he like wants to seduce the girl. Well, the original story, I read some stuff, like original story, like he rapes Lily, and they're like, yeah, we got to take that out. This is supposed to be like a kid's movie. He literally like rapes her, but they're like, yeah. So it's like intimated that he kind of rapes her, like when she like ends up dark or whatever.
So I have a question about that part of the movie. It seems like Darkness like wants connection, right? Like wants, and I was a little confused about connection, about that. It's like, is he feeling lonely? It almost sounds like at some point he feels insecure and lonely and wants a relationship, but then he just basically kidnapped her, and
he's kidnapped her and seduced
so that was a little confusing, because I got like a mismatched message where it's like he just wants power,
of course,
but then in this moment it kind of seemed like he felt, which is a good point, right? Because a lot of times insecurity can breed, I mean, that's what we see with narcissism ultimately is
Yeah, like it
inside
wants the
this.
shadow of something that looks like companionship, but not actual
Yeah.
connection, which is what he says, because there's a line in there where it's like he says like he desires her, or
Yeah.
something like that. So it's just like he just wants to possess her. He doesn't actually want a relationship
And
because he's
so
evil.
the other thing that
I
was,
mean,
I mean,
like
this movie is kind of all over the place. So there's a
it's
lot of
all over the
different,
place.
but there's one point, and I can't remember exactly what they said, but I think it was with the goblins, like the minions of darkness, these goblins, and
Yeah.
they were talking to darkness about they took the unicorn horn from the male, and the female was still alive, and they're like, well, it doesn't matter, she's a female. And darkness was like, something to the effect of, well, she has the power of procreation,
Yeah.
like this is this great power. And I thought that was kind of a cool
Hmm.
little scene, because
Well,
it was
that's the
kind
whole
of
thing
this
with like
demeaning,
aliens
like, oh,
too, right?
women are nothing. But then it's like, he's like, well, wait, no, she has great power also. And I thought that was kind of an interesting, like, and it was just right there, just this 2-minute scene.
Well,
And
there's
it's like,
more
there's
there.
there's like points where it's like, what's going,
Yeah.
and my thoughts are, yeah, what do you think is there? It's hard to pull stuff out of for
Well,
me.
I think this director who did Aliens, I mean, like Aliens is one of the pure like women story movies of like a woman hero, like in a
Sure.
time when there weren't women heroes. And so he's got some kind of like, line towards the feminine story and that power and that weight, but like again, it just gets lost in the movie because I don't know what they were trying to communicate or get across. It's just dark and sinister and confusing, like, and it doesn't make sense. And the two main characters, you have no idea what they want or where they're trying to get to, and they get to this place of love and they kind of work together. I mean, she stab him? Is that what happens? Does she stab him with the unicorn
Darkness.
horn? Does she
No,
like who
I
stabs
think Tom,
darkness?
Jack. I think Jack
Oh,
throws it, maybe.
he throws it,
Doesn't he
he gets
grab it? And then I think he
yeah.
throws it into
But she
Darkness's like
and she
stomach or
kind of
something.
and she kind of plays along, right? Because she
Yeah,
kind of
she
plays
cuts the
along,
chain that's holding the female unicorn, and
right?
that
Because
releases her.
was she going to like
She was supposed to cut the unicorn's horn off,
oh, okay, and so Legend was kind of trying to seduce
and
her
he
and
had to
make
trust
him
her. Or
right,
sorry, Jack had to right. So yeah, so Darkness was gonna kill, and then she's like, well, hey, I want to be with you or whatever, and let me show this to you. I want to kill the unicorn, and
so
I
she's
understand why
playing.
the unicorn needs to die. And then
So I
Jack
guess
has this moment where he has to trust her,
trust
right?
her,
And
right?
he has to trust that she's going to do the right thing. And instead of shooting her, he shoots
Legend,
Darkness. And I
right?
think the little elf guy that's with him or whatever he is, I think he shoots Darkness with Jack. So they both
Yeah,
shoot arrows into him because he has a couple arrows in him.
right, like in his shoulder or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the
So I
unicorn
guess
horn gets dropped.
they're trying to like push on the development of the relationship between Lily and Jack and this notion of trust, and did she betray me with Darkness, because she's got the garb on, she's all goth.
Yeah.
You know what I
She's
mean?
all
So
dressed up. It would be really interesting if they could have given a little, like you said, a little bit more story as to, we don't really get an understanding as to Jack. Like,
no.
what is he? Who
He
is
looks
he?
like
Where does he come
he's
from?
got
Why
no
is he?
brain. He's got no
Well,
brain.
he's supposed to be innocent, right? Because I think they make the
Guess
point,
so.
innocence is what attracts the unicorns. But
Mhm.
really, I guess the question is
Well,
innocence
Lily
the
is
same as
not.
naive?
Yeah,
And
yeah, that's a good point.
it seems like they portray him more as kind of naive and unknowing. And I feel like
And
innocence is
Lily is
more
like
than
a
that.
woman of the world, and she wants to kind of wrangle him, or she wants to conform him to take on the role of lover,
And
to come out
she
of this
yeah.
innocent place. And he has to he well, and he comes to know the world of darkness, right? He descends into darkness and has to face evil. He has to face darkness. and slay darkness, and he needs the help of her, but her character is just so convoluted because it's almost like it's all her fault, but maybe she doesn't realize it. By touching the unicorn, she kind of, you know makes it unholy, and then
Well,
evil
I
is
don't
able
really
to see it
understand.
and attack it.
Well, but they could see it before she touched the unicorn.
Well,
That's what
but
I didn't
yeah, well,
understand.
I
Like,
don't think they're supposed to be able to, or like they're not supposed to be able to find them. And they were only able to find them because Jack brought Lily to them, and then they followed them to that. Because it's like they couldn't
uh,
find them, because that's what
so
darkness
because Lily
says in the
was with
beginning.
Jack,
Yeah,
they could see.
yeah,
So Lily represents.
like
Well,
the
it's hard to
world.
know what Lily represents because
No, because
Jack,
it's
it's
so,
very unclear what he represents. He's
yeah,
supposed to represent innocence, but
yes.
the way they represent innocence in this movie doesn't quite make sense to me as to what I would think
Yeah,
innocence
especially
is.
because they're like falling in love, and there's all this sensuality, there's all this sexual tension.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very sensual and very mature. It's not fairy tale and like kind of play like,
I was
right?
kind
Like
of
it's
surprised by that
intense.
in the beginning where
It's
it's like
very
you in
sexualized.
the
Yeah.
scroll, it's like, okay, Jack is this innocent person, and then it looks like they basically get it on within 2 minutes of the
Yeah,
movie.
that's another part
And
they
I'm like,
must have
that's
they
not innocent.
yeah, they
That might
well
be
I think
naive, but it's
well
not
I
innocent.
but I think that they're trying to like I think it's like the power of the woman, but it's played in all the wrong ways. I mean, it's played in all the archetypes that aren't right. But like I think it's like the power of the woman is to seduce the innocent man,
Yeah.
and I think they cut it out. Like I think it was way more sexualized, and I think they cut it out.
Okay.
Like I think it was like this is needs to be
That's
like a kids movie.
interesting.
Yeah, like I think it was much more dark and mature, and that they tried to lighten it up. And I think because they tried to lighten it up, the tone got all messed
So
up.
they really take it down this path, or the kind of the intent, it sounds like, is that she represents, yeah, the world or
Or
worldly things.
maturity, like he's a
Yeah.
boy, like you said, Peter Pan. The whole Peter Pan or Wen thing makes a lot more sense, right? Because like she's pulling him out of the fantasy
Yeah.
world into the real world, but she's naive, like she's
But it's
totally
interesting
naive
because
as well.
Wendy, I don't see as like to blame, right? But it seems like if we go kind of with that path, then it makes sense to me. It seems like, and I can't remember her name, but the
Lily.
girl, Lily,
In this
thank you.
movie, it's
Yeah, it
Lily.
seems like she would be to blame,
Yeah.
but I don't. That's yeah. I
Well,
guess
it's
yeah.
really dark too, because like that whole scene, like she visits the peasant woman or whatever, and it makes her seem like connected and down to earth, but then like you know the tragedy of her introducing, I don't want to say filth, but degraded or humanness to this innocent holy like unicorn thing, like that family becomes frozen, and like that whole scene is so twisted and dark, where like the
Yeah, it's
trolls or
weird. I
goblins
thought it
come
was
in and they're like
weird. They just
blowing everything up and ripping everything apart, and
yeah.
she's like in the attic, and it's like all of her fault, you know what I mean, like because of she of where she went with the unicorns,
But if
she
you're playing it
becomes that.
off of like Adam and Eve, or at least the biblical sense of Adam and Eve, then I could see how I think it's interpreted in that way, and
It introduces the fall,
yeah, in many ways that
cold. Yeah.
that they're the woman caused,
Yeah,
or was
she
the first.
ate the fruit
But
first, which is really just introducing the reality of the potential for pain and hurt. Man, that's the part that to me about the Adam and Eve story. It's like you have the capability of hurting someone, and you
then
come to a
yeah.
realization of that, and that's like the part that's scary. It's like
Well, and for
you
me,
could betray me, I could betray you.
I've always viewed it kind of the other way, and I think you could view this movie this other way, is Eve had the ability and strength to do something that
To move things
Adam
forward.
didn't.
Yeah, to
And
move
in
things
this
forward.
movie,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's kind of the play, because they talk about the female
Yeah.
unicorn,
Well, we don't know
but
what
she
we don't know
didn't.
what
The
she's
hard
driven
thing with the
by.
movie is it didn't take strength. It was just her being present that caused it.
it's
So it's more
clear.
like blaming in this movie, where
because we don't know what
when
she
I look
wants.
at Adam and Eve, I look at, for me, it comes across like Eve had the strength to do this thing that Adam didn't, and that perpetuated the progression of this plan, right? In the Lord's plan in the scriptures. In this movie, it's hard.
Well, we don't know what we don't have
like,
any idea because she's just a confused, whimsical girl. It's like she's just a confused, whimsical girl. And it's funny too, because the thing that struck me about Jack, like joining up with the ferry crew, like the ragtag ferry crew, it was like, is this supposed to be like the bachelor party? Like,
I don't know.
They're all drinking.
The costumes.
They're drinking their
little
thimbles of whatever
whiskey
it was, and and then you've got this guy, the one elf that's like the brother of the other elves, who's like in with the trolls. That like
I didn't get that at all.
Redeemed.
Like they didn't have any storyline or understanding.
He said some line like, yeah, I threw in with the trolls and I guess it got out of hand or something. But yeah, he's welcome back just fine. Doesn't matter that he helped destroy.
I was kind of shocked by that. I'm like,
weird.
Oh, so it's not really a troll. It's like a dwarf.
Yeah, he's like a dwarf.
I think they're dwarfs. I'm not sure.
Like, sorry guys, I got sucked in with these guys. Like, will you trust me and forgive me? And there he is. He's at the end celebrating. It's all good. Like, just took off his helmet. Well, I don't know why they forgave him or whatever it was, but it was just strange.
Well, and I think it's interesting because I could see how maybe kind of the movie is going through like a developmental stage, right? Trying to show that, hey, we have this what they call innocence, but seems more like just being naive. And they get exposed into knowledge and
they get exposed to the darkness and they have to work together and through these confusion. They've got these supporting cast roles of people that are
I was really excited about like the scroll. I was like, oh, okay, so there's going to be this idea. I swear it said something about balance and like understanding.
It didn't work out that way though.
No, it was just all light again, which is not like in whose world is it just all light?
No.
There's darkness and light in all
the darkness
worlds,
is
so it's
still
really interesting.
Well, it's bizarre that they would even portray it like the light was winning, because it's not like, I mean, darkness at the beginning of the movie he's fine in his lair, like he's doing his thing, he's chopping up people and living out his mayhem. Like, what do you mean? Like, you're not, like, you want to be down here in the depths. Like, he's like, oh, we have to take back light or destroy light, which of course like evil's always trying to do. But yeah, it does, like, it doesn't.
I thought it was going to be more a movie of like resilience, right? And that's what I think of with the balance between light and dark for us in our own lives is as like we learn to as we learn from the things we've gone through,
right?
Then darkness doesn't actually expunge, but we don't see it in that way because we have tools and capabilities that are within us, strengths within us, that we can deal with the darkness in a way that we continue to move forward and we don't feel as dragged down, even though we still have dark moments in our life. And I thought that's kind of what it was gonna be about, but it kind of just felt like darkness was gone to me. It just felt like darkness had been, and maybe that's the point, right? Maybe I'm being too harsh here. Maybe that is what
you're
saying.
Not being too harsh. This movie did not put it together. Sorry, I love the movie visually, but like, and yeah, like they work together to defeat darkness, and then they go forward, and the unicorns are restored or whatever. But yeah, I don't know what they learned.
Yeah, and what is the unicorn? I was kind of shocked because the unicorn's just there, and I kept thinking in the beginning of the movie, I was like, oh, maybe they can bring the unicorn back to life.
Well, like, did it die? We don't even know if it died.
Yeah, just
or was
there.
it just was it in a coma?
Yeah, like a coma or something. And then, what did bringing it back to life?
Like, who restored it? Who was it that put the horn back on there? Was it
the
Tom
elf?
Cruise? No, yeah, was it the elf? It's like I just thought
Tom
to myself,
Cruise went down to get the ring. And maybe the elf, I think the elf did, the elf boy. It was really an interesting character for me to get used to at the beginning, because I'm like, oh, it's literally like a kid.
Yeah, it was really weird.
But he did a good job.
Like, I also had that feeling of the pixie girl that was trying to seduce Tom Cruise. I'm like, this is kind of pedophilia. She looks like she's 11. You know what I mean? And he's like a
yeah,
grown Jack. I
the
don't know.
only
That was
thing
weird
that
to
I
me.
could keep thinking is it just seemed like Peter Pan to me. I don't know if there's really much point to it
More
beyond
sexualized Peter Pan.
it
That's for
was more
dang sure.
sexualized.
Because
Yeah.
she just
She was
wanted
like,
his body. She just
yeah,
wanted him. She
it
just
was a little
wanted.
uncomfortable at certain points with
It
some of
was
the things she was saying. I was like, dang,
Dude, she just wanted him.
am I
I'll
just the
be
dirty mind, or
whatever.
am I hearing this
I'll be
correctly?
whatever you want me to be. Like, I'll even turn into Lily. Like, whatever.
Yeah,
I
it
just
was.
want you with your
Yeah,
no pants tunic. Come on.
and the interesting thing was he like denied her, and she got upset for like a second, and then it was like back
She
to
still helped
normal.
him. Well, she
Yeah,
still helped him.
it was like back to
Well,
normal.
that's why she has resilience. I mean, she's one character that was like, yeah, you didn't get me wanted, but I'm still gonna do the right thing and help you.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Darkness or
So
whatever.
what was the point? Like the unicorn, I just was a little like, why the unicorn was just brought back to life, I guess. Like what does that
Well, I
mean?
guess it didn't die. Well, I guess it was restored, like the evil minions cut off its horn, so it lost its light. But Lily and Jack descend and work together with their friends to defeat darkness, and they restore light to its order, and they can run off and be innocent, and
I guess that
it's
makes sense.
preserved.
So
Like that's the legend is
light is
preserved.
immortal. Like you can't ever
Yeah.
completely get rid of light as
No.
long as you can restore it to
Well,
its natural
darkness.
form. And
Well,
darkness you can't ever get rid of either, right?
Well,
It
and
can be
darkness
diminished
can
or-
never extinguish light. You know what I mean? Like if
Yeah.
you're in a dark place and you put on a light source, there's nothing darkness can
Yeah.
do about it. Like that's the power. That's why light always wins. It's like it like that is the eternal truth in the universe. It's like you turn on light, and
which would make
darkness can't
sense
extinguish
as
it.
to why the unicorn doesn't actually fully die, because you can
Yeah,
restore that
'cause it
light,
can,
because
right.
light can always extinguish darkness. I think that would make sense.
Yeah, if we're stretching.
It was really interesting though. I just as soon as I saw Tom Cruise and he didn't speak for like the first 5 minutes,
He was
like, what is
weird. He was a total
on?
freaking weirdo,
And
especially with his no pants.
He's in
Why
underwear.
is he running around with no pants? Like, is it like they were like, oh, this worked in Risky Business, we're gonna just keep building off this. Like, let's send him into the layer of weapons. He puts on this like tunic, he's got like weapons, and then he still has no pants. I'm like, who goes into war against darkness without putting their pants on? Like,
well, the beautiful thing was it was just a tunic. Like there was no armor pants in the
it's just weird. It's like, why do there not be pants? Who goes and fights of darkness and doesn't put on pants? Like,
well,
you have arteries in your legs that they can cut and you can be killed that way. Like, I don't.
Well, and where does his shield and sword go? I feel like it just pops up randomly. He has
how did they end up in jail, like in the dungeon jail again? Like, did I fall asleep or like tune out or
fell something? So they were going there, and there was like this rock thing covering it, and there was like a rope, and the one dwarf guy was pulling on the rope, and then they fell down into that hole, and they slid into a dungeon. Yeah, if I remember right. And that's where they met the goblin that was actually a dwarf, not a goblin.
Right. Where like because he got in prison because he took up the unicorn and like went crazy. He was like shooting it everywhere. And then darkness shows up and he like throws it and he's like, what was I didn't do it. He's just like, it wasn't me. And then like darkness like, give me the unicorn horn.
So then in the dungeon they were fighting, I think they called them demons, the big guys that were like killing stuff. They were taking all those plates. I kind of missed a little bit of that. Were they just taking all the plates so that they could reflect the light?
I think
is that the only purpose? I was confused as to why they're throwing these plates to each other.
Yeah, I think that the whole idea was that like if they could bring some light in, they could be empowered to defeat darkness.
Okay,
I guess so.
Yeah, so it definitely seemed like it could be really interesting.
I think the movie had a great chance of being awesome.
Yeah.
And because they didn't give us any sense of who Jack or Lily was and what their arc was,
It was really
It
tough.
was confusing because it's interesting too, because when he emerges again with the ring, it's like all of that descending into darkness happened as he dove into the water and came back up. And again, like it's so confusing because Lily like was like, well, if you love me, then you have to fetch the ring, and she throws it, and then she's
Yeah, I didn't get
horrified.
that.
But
Like,
then she's horrified when he goes to get it. It's like, well, you just
yeah,
challenged
what
him
was the point of
to
even
show
doing
me.
that?
Yeah, it's like you just challenged the man to show you he was devoted, and then you're horrified when he jumps into the water to retrieve the ring. Like it's just what you asked him to do. Again, it's like all the wrong archetypes of a woman. It's like, yeah, woman's never satisfied. She like tells you to do something, wants you to, and then you do it, and
Yeah,
she
was
gets
that
pissed
kind of
off
the
it for you.
point they were trying to
I don't
make?
know.
Was
Like, I
it's
don't
like,
know.
oh, it's almost it's this weird game, right? Where it's like,
Yeah.
I like you and I know you like me, but I'm just gonna do something to make you prove that you like.
Yeah.
It's really
Well,
weird.
and
I
the
didn't
whole
quite.
movie, right? Like the whole movie happens like as a flash when he descends into the water and gets the ring. Because then, like, after they defeat darkness, then they flip back and he's swimming in the water and he gets the ring.
Yeah.
And then he like ascends out of the water with the ring. And so it's almost like this dream that happened as he dove into the water. You know, it
Maybe
was,
that's I don't know. So here I was just looking at box office. It cost 24.5 million
and it made like 13.
and it made 15 and a half. So it was a pretty big flop.
Well, it didn't make any sense. I mean,
But it's a
you have to
cult
stretch
classic.
barely. I mean, the only thing, like, seriously, how, because Tim Curry is absolutely convincing as Darkness,
Oh,
and
Tim Curry, is really good. I
he's amazing. Like, if it
well, they have
wasn't
some
for
good
him,
actors. Like
oh,
there's like
oh
they
yeah.
cast it really well. It's
Yeah, they
just
did. Like, well,
uh,
and he was convincing. Like, besides the fact that they screwed the whole idea of darkness because darkness had a dad that was like coaching him to greater darkness or whatever.
yeah.
Besides that, which makes no sense because you just made him subservient instead of like the preeminent
Yeah, that was a little
figure.
interesting. There was
It's
there
bizarre.
was things in there that were
It
just
makes sense.
interesting. And even like I wish we would have gotten more like the scroll if they were trying to open up the movie, I wish the scroll at the beginning would have focused on giving us information about Jack instead of just summarizing the movie or what they
Right.
felt
Well,
like the
they
movie was
had to
supposed to be.
summarize the movie, or you'd really have no
Well, yeah,
freaking idea what
yeah,
was going on.
they had, yeah.
They
But
had
I
to give you
wish I
something
wish
to
we.
aim at.
Well, I feel bad because we're really ragging on this movie,
Well, it's all right. It deserves it, man. I'm
but
sorry.
I think, I mean, personally, I think that I would really be curious. I think you should watch it.
If
I
you
think
want to
people
be
should watch it just so
confused,
they can see
if you
what we're
want to
talking
be
about. And maybe you're more enlightened than I
confused,
am, and you can find things that
I
I couldn't. But
well,
it was definitely worth a watch to me. I was intrigued just because I was so like, what is going on? Like
the
what
first 30 minutes, I thought, okay, I'm not following the metaphors, so I guess I'm stupid
I
because
just
I
thought
don't
like Adam
get
and
it.
Eve came out pretty clear. And
Yes,
then after
very
that, I
quick.
feel like it
I wish I
like
would have
what
thought of
is going
I
on?
wish I would have thought of the Peter Pan thing. That would have given me a little bit more to chew on as things were happening. The
Yeah,
whole
the
Peter
Peter
Pan
Pan thing definitely came
metaphor.
across,
Yeah.
but those were the only two things
Well,
that
and then the only
really.
other thing is them like working together with their friends to defeat darkness. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it definitely could have been a cool adventure movie,
Yeah.
but
If we
I
would have
think
known what the
they
adventure
tried
was.
too much, right? They tried too hard to, I
Yeah.
think, make this more, and it just got lost. I think
It
it's only
totally
an
got
hour, like an
lost.
hour and a half, or it's
Not a
not a
long
super
movie.
long movie, so it's not
No.
hard to get
And
through. It's
and
pretty quick.
visually it's stunning.
Yes.
And the darkness part of the movie, it feels real, like you know what it is, and it is dark. I mean, the fact that like in the beginning darkness is like, I want the unicorn thing, and the guy asks him a question or something and he like stabs him in the head, and I'm like,
Yeah.
dang,
I didn't
dude. Like,
yeah,
I was
that's what
like,
he
you
did, right? He
are yeah, like
stabbed.
stabs him in the head, or I thought he like poked his eye out or something, like, so you can remember to not question me or whatever, because he's so like subservient or whatever. It's like I thought to myself, well, why would you want to go get the unicorn like horn for him when he just stabbed you in the head? Like, what is that?
Well,
Like,
because he wants the power for himself, right?
oh,
Which
the
was
goblin.
interesting, yeah, because the goblin,
Yeah, he
remember they
revels
had
in
that
it. He
whole
does.
scene
He
where
revels in it.
where he
It's
really
true.
wants the power, but then they end up getting found out by
Darkness shows up, and
darkness.
they're like, and the guy's like, sorry, here
Yeah,
you go.
he gives the wand over to the fake troll guy, right?
He's all like, he
Darkness
took
is
it.
yeah.
We're doing what you wanted.
And of course, the stupid fake troll guy, the dwarf, is like, yeah, he says something like, I should have the power or something, and Darkness is like, yep, you're gone.
Yeah, and I maimed you. Yeah, so which is why you don't ever throw in with Darkness, because it stabs you in the back every time, because it just wants what it wants. So it'll use you as long as you'll play along to support what it wants, and then it'll cut your throat just when you're, when you need anything.
Yeah, for the power. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's the hard thing with power, is I think once you decide that's what you want, you don't ever have enough of it.
Well,
So
and then you're alone.
yeah,
You can never have companionship and trust and
which then
camaraderie, and
brings out the
you're
aloneness, the
just, yeah.
loneliness
So
brings out
that's
the
why, because the power becomes the thing you're seeking a relationship with or
Mhm.
to take. So then you can just use everything to the degree that it feeds some type of soul, like some
Yeah,
appetite in your soul, which
but
of
it's
course is an
fake, right? It
empty.
doesn't,
Well, it's a
yeah.
Twinkie. It's a Twinkie that never
Mhm.
satisfies. Like, you taste good for a second and then you have empty calories. You know what I mean? So there's no fulfillment in it ever.
I could
It's a
see,
strange
I think
thing.
this came out in 85 or 86. I can't remember,
I think
but
that's right. 86 maybe.
I could see, I could see back then going to theater and it looking like, I thought it was really cool looking
Gorgeous.
now, but I could see back then people being like, holy cow. And I think that's one thing with this movie that's really cool, is the costumes, the makeup. I mean,
The
some of the
evil trolls
scenes,
and pigs and
it's
all of that were
really,
incredible. It was
yeah,
incredible. Visually, it's incredible. Even like the fairies and the close-ups that they did, and the coloring, and like the setting, they home run. The setting
hmm,
of the movie and the characters and how they look and feel is a
yeah,
home run. Is absolutely a home run. They must have given so much time and energy to that they would, like, they had this idea of a story. And I think the story must have gotten convoluted, because I think it was darker and more mature, and they had to like dial it back, and they're like, no, this needs to be like a playful fantasy movie. And it's like, no, dude, that didn't work. They were too far down the rabbit hole with the
yeah.
hatcheting, cleaving bodies in the opening scene. It's like,
And it was like that it seemed like that era of like Labyrinth and
yeah, we've got to do Labyrinth, dude.
what's the one, oh man, I don't know why I can't think of it, the Jim Henson
Trolls,
one that is about the
Critters.
stone. Oh man,
Remember Critters?
I
Critters
can't
was like,
think of the name of that one, but they did
oh,
the
Dark
follow up.
Crystal.
Yeah, Dark Crystal. It's like, I
I
feel like it's kind of
loved
that
Dark
era
Crystal.
of
Yeah.
movies, and I can't remember
Yes.
exactly when those came out, but I
Well,
feel like it's kind of that theme, except for it just like like Dark Crystal. I love. Yeah, I just
oh,
feel like there's like there's like a point that's clear
yeah.
with
Well,
those
it's
movies
interesting.
and not with this one.
One of the articles that I scanned said, that no fantasy movies were made from the time Legend to Lord of the Rings. Like, people were scared off them, but it's like they didn't need to be scared off them. This story didn't make any sense. Lord of the Rings is like the greatest, like one of the greatest blockbuster, movies of all time, because it had a backdrop of like one of the greatest story writers of all time. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? With Tolkien. And so yeah, it's interesting. There weren't any like fantasy movies really made between Legend and Lord of the Rings.
at least like big budget ones. Is that kind of
I
what
don't know if
they're?
there's any. Like, that's what the article said. I'd have to go do research, but I don't think there were like any real serious fantasy movies. I mean, I guess there was like Disney fantasy movies, but no like non-Disney fantasy movies, right?
Yeah, I
Be
don't know.
interesting to
I'd have
research.
to, yeah, look into that. It's hard because my mind gets blurred. I always, when I'm thinking fantasy, oftentimes sci-fi comes to my mind.
Right. Like, just think of the 90s. Can you think of any fantasy movies besides Disney movies in the 90s? I
Oh
don't think so.
man.
I don't think so.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, was there a D&D movie somewhere in there? Maybe they tried some D&D.
There's definitely been fantasy movies, but I think probably their point they're making is like big
budget. Yeah.
Because I wouldn't dare say there's not been fantasy movies.
But no big budget then.
But yeah,
because this budget was huge. I mean, $23 million in 86.
Yeah.
That's a huge budget.
Yeah.
But they still, I mean, this guy still went on to make a bunch of great movies, right? I mean, like the Aliens guy went and did some other big stuff.
Well, I think he did Gladiator also, didn't he? I think
you might be right.
He's done a lot, but well, I mean, yeah, it was just a blip, but it was an interesting blip. I was excited to watch it because I didn't remember it. But then the only thing I as I was watching, I was like, oh yeah, I remember the music, I remember the unicorns, and then the rest I was like, yeah, I do not remember
he did make Gladiator. He made Blade Runner, but that was prior. He did Thelma and Louise.
Yeah, Blade Runner.
He did The Martian, which is also a weird movie.
Yeah,
he must be trying to
Damon.
He must be trying to make like really deep points, but sometimes maybe they get lost, or I guess he's just smarter than me. You know what I mean? I don't know. Because like the Martian movie was, I'd have to watch it again. I don't know if it made sense to me either.
I don't remember. A lot of movies I don't know if I just watch them. I don't know if I pull out deep meanings.
He's made a lot of dark movies. I'm like looking through it. Like, I don't know. Because I'm not like a horror movie person.
Mm-hmm.
He did he produced Murder on the Orient Express.
Oh yeah, that one was, or no, I saw the second one to that, I think. The Nile one, and that one was interesting. I heard people really like the Orient Express one, but I've not seen that first one.
Yeah. I don't know.
All right,
He did G.I. Jane, like he produced that.
Yeah, he's done a ton of movies.
He's done a ton of stuff.
I would say
they're doing Gladiator too.
Are they?
Yeah. He was
How does
involved.
That work?
He directed I don't know. He directed there's a movie I've seen the teasers, Napoleon. He directed that. He did
Gladiator
all the Aliens.
2, is it like
it's announced.
A reboot or
I have no idea. It's announced. He did all the Alien movies. He did Prometheus. That movie's dark. The 2010 Robin Hood. So is that the same guy from Gladiator, right? Is that the one he did?
The 2010 Robin Hood, is that the one with
Crow? It wasn't very good.
Oh, was it that one?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. Because there was another Robin Hood with the guy, I can't think of his name. He plays Wanda, and
he did Hannibal.
Color.
He did. I don't think I even saw Hannibal. He did Black Hawk Down. It looks like he did some like war movies.
All right, all. Thanks for joining in. It was fun. I encourage you to watch the movie. I think it was worth a watch just to I'm really curious about people's thoughts.
You want to be confused.
But thanks for joining us. It was a fun. I enjoyed it. I was excited to talk about this one.
Thanks for listening to us try to make sense of legend. The thing of legends.
Adios, everyone. We'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah.
Bye.